Today, we're going to be talking about posture. One of the easiest ways to improve your playing is improving your coordination, how you move and sit at the piano. Even the littlest adjustments can make a huge difference in your speed, accuracy, and musical flow, and also in the tension levels in your body. The good news is it's actually pretty easy to fix these things if you know what to focus on. So in this video, I'm going to break down how to achieve great posture at the piano and maximize your results in playing. My name is Helen Allen. I'm a peak performance coach, helping pianists improve their technique, mindset, performing skills, and business. Now, the most important part to coordinate well in your body as a pianist is actually not your hands, not your fingers, not your arms. It is your torso. So if you only focus on improving one area, it should be this. Let me explain to you why. Not only does coordinating your torso well help you avoid back pain, there's actually a bigger reason. The muscles that move your arms are literally in your torso. Think about it. How do you train the muscles that are in your chest or at your back? By moving your arms. Whatever happens in these muscles, either in the front or at the back, will affect your arm movement directly. If you have static tension in your torso, it means that you're literally holding on to tension before you even play a single sound at the piano. To release this tension, there are three main parts to talk about: your pelvis, your spine, and your upper back. So let's cover them one by one. The way you position your pelvis will determine whether your upper back has to brace or not. It's like a foundation of a house that needs to be grounded to support the upper layers. The biggest mistake pianists make is that they are not on their sitting bones, which means that the pelvis is never balanced. So here's the small adjustment you need to make in order to balance your pelvis. First, you cannot achieve any freedom in your pelvis if you sit too far back on the bench. The further you go, the more your legs will be planted on the bench and you cannot actually release your pelvis. So you need to come to the front edge. And if this means that you have to push the chair back a bit, do so. You want to be so far forward on the bench that your legs are not on the bench at all. They're completely free to move and only your bum is on the chair. You'll find your sitting bones if you sit on your hands and wriggle a little bit. You'll find these two pointy bones, which are your sitting bones, and you should be sitting on those pointy bits. You will be off your sitting bones if you roll backwards onto the tailbone, which then creates a lot of pressure on your sacrum and can cause a lot of pain for your lower back. You're also off your sitting bones if you roll forward like this, if you hollow your back forward and push yourself up to the sit up straight position. This will cause tremendous tension in your lower back and is one of the main reasons why you might be feeling discomfort in these areas when you play the piano. So the best way to find where you should be sitting is rolling back and forth a little bit. You can keep your hands underneath you because this helps you determine where you should be sitting. You can roll back a little bit and then forward again a little bit and back a little bit and forward again and make that movement smaller and smaller and smaller until finally you feel like you're straight on your sitting bones. You can then remove your hands. This is the position where your pelvis is the most balanced. And from there we can achieve freedom in the torso. However, there is one more reason why your pelvis wouldn't be balanced, and it's to do with your legs. As soon as you pull your knees together, your pelvis will be off balance. So in an ideal piano position, you need to have your knees go over your toes and away from each other because that relaxes your lower back and relaxes your pelvis. And then you can think of your sitting bones going into the chair and letting your chair take your weight. Your spine plays an equally important role in having great posture. Here's a fact you probably never heard about, but without knowing this, you will never be able to fully release tension. Before I trained as an Alexander technique teacher, if somebody had asked me, "Helen, where's your spine?" I would have pointed at the back where I can feel my spine with my hands. With my mug on me. And therefore, I was always subconsciously using my back to hold myself up. In Alexander technique, we call this back-orientated sitting. Now, pay attention because what I'm going to say next will literally change how you sit forever. The part of the spine that carries your weight is not at the back. It's actually in the middle of you and it's strong. Think of this like an apple core. It sits in the middle, in your belly, right behind your organs. And if you allow this part of the spine to do the job, your back muscles can finally release the tension they've been holding. Same goes for your tummy muscles. So sit on your sitting bones with the weight dropping onto the chair and your knees going away from each other, and then think that the strongest part of you is right in your belly. Allow that part to take your weight and release all the muscles around it, and see how you feel compared to sitting so that you support yourself with your back, trying to hold your tummy muscles strong in order to stay upright. If you do that, if that's your strategy, you're actually engaging all the muscles that are supposed to be moving your arms. Holding you up is not their primary job. The muscles here around your torso are there to move your limbs. And by using your torso to stay upright instead of relying on your spine, you will be engaging these muscles and you will be having tension in them before you actually even get to the playing. Once you let go of tension in your pelvis, you allow your spine to hold you up instead of bracing with your torso muscles, your upper back and your shoulders can finally release. They can go from holding and tensing to releasing back into where they belong. And from there, your arm muscles can finally have the freedom to move wherever they need to move, instead of having to work against static tension in your shoulder area. If there is tension in your pelvis, if there is holding in your spine, and if there's holding in your muscles in the torso, your upper back cannot release. No matter how much you try to release and relax your shoulders, they will always be going up. There's one more important part to cover, and that's the head position. Without this, no matter how much you try to release the torso, it won't work because the head is heavy. Imagine holding a bowling ball up on top of your spine every single day. And actually, you don't even have to imagine that, because this is exactly what happens. The head weighs around the same as a bowling ball, which is 5 kilos, around 11 pounds. And you need to hold that weight up all the time. And this is when things are going well, when the head is balancing on top of your spine correctly. However, the more I droop forward, the heavier my head becomes in relation to my spine. This means that if this is my playing posture, which it actually used to be, my body has to fight this head weight all the time. My neck muscles will get really tense, my upper back muscles get really tense, and my arms literally cannot move properly. So here's how to fix all this. And it's not by pushing the head backward, trying to straighten the neck at the back. There's one bit of anatomy that you really need to know as a pianist, and that's where your head meets your spine. Again, if somebody would have asked this before I had my Alexander training, I would have pointed at around here. But actually, the place where the head meets the spine is a lot higher, around your ear level. Why do we need to know this as pianists? Because if we believe that our head moves from lower down, that's exactly where we try to move the head from. And that leads to the head forward posture that we really need to avoid at the piano. Look at the difference. If I imagine that my head moves from around here, this is how the movement will look like. Everything is tense and everything is compromised around here. However, if I think that my movement comes from up here, everything is free, everything is coming from a higher place. So my spine vertebrae don't get compromised because of this movement. I'm actually moving from where my joint is, which is on top of the spine, instead of in the middle of my neck. If you have any neck pain, this might be the reason. So connect to this point here and let your head move from here. The movement feels very different, very free and very light. Like that. So what do you do when you have to actually look down towards the keys? Use your eyes and use this type of head movement to do that instead of dragging your head down to see. When we play, we have to move a lot, closer and further from the piano, to different areas of the piano. The best way to achieve this is by using what you've learned today and putting it all together, making it into one smooth movement. What you want is to be able to have freedom in your pelvis so that you can move from your hip joint, which is around where the leg moves from, and to move the body so that the head leads the movement and the body follows from the hip joint. In this way, you will never lose the open feeling in your torso. You will never lose the freedom of your back muscles, the freedom of your front muscles, and you will never lose the beautiful head balance. You'll never droop forward. You'll never push your lower back forward. So So now that we've covered all the positions, how do you actually use these positions in movement? If you want to move to the higher parts and lower parts of the keyboard, if you want to move closer and further away from the piano, the best way to do it is to sit in a way that we already said, meaning your pelvis is nicely balanced on the chair, your spine is strong and in the middle of you, and your head balances from this upper joint here. You can then set that all into movement from the hip joint instead of from the spine. So moving from lower down here and then just allowing your head to lead the movement and everything else, your spine and your body follows. This is the best way to achieve constant good piano posture that you will never have to lose, because you never collapse and you never push your back forward. You also never send your head towards the piano. It doesn't mean you can't do these movements, but you just need to remember to come back to this balanced way of sitting as often as possible. I hope this video was helpful. Leave any comments or questions below, and I will see you in the next video.